So tonight the class is sponsored by Ike and Rosalie Rudy in honor and refuah shelema of Brian Tostano, who cut this thing, but Bezat Hashem will be good. He'll be fine. So we wish him a great refuah shelema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share with you tonight something important, interesting, and a little bit of homework for all of us. Easy, doable, and impactful. Before I get to that, I will ask you to think at one point in life if you ever doubted wanting to be part of the Jewish people, if you ever thought, I wish I wasn't, or the opposite, or if at one point you were like, I'm not giving that up ever. Why is that? What is that moment? And now I would like to discuss something with you. As an introduction, in Israeli society, I believe, is an extreme society. In Israel, you have a lot of extremism. Many times I've said it, so you may have heard me saying it already, but I strongly believe that that's the way it is. So in Israel, you are always very something. So if you are religious, you are very religious. Or like they call ultra-Orthodox. And it's not enough to be Orthodox, you have to be ultra. If you are not religious, you are very not religious. That's why there's a lot of frictions between the religious and the non-religious people, because the non-religious people became anti-religious. You go, the Chiloni is very Chiloni. The Zionist Mizrahi is very Mizrahi. He, very, very strongly adheres to the state of Israel to the point that he's willing to give his life. He live in Hebron, with 3 guns on him, ready to do that. Everything is very. I'll give you an example with the COVID, for example. The way Israel is dealing, I was going to say dealt, but is dealing with the COVID. Although at the beginning, everyone thought that Israel was like the leader of the world when it came to COVID, I believe they make the mistake of extremism. And what was that? At the beginning, there was a problem. What they do? National lockdown. My parents live in Israel now for the past year, and they've experienced it firsthand. National lockdown, it's real. National lockdown is you cannot cross from one shchuna to the next shchuna. You can't go from one neighborhood to the next. My parents live in Beit Vagan in Yerushalayim. My brother lives in Kiryat Yovel, which is literally next door neighborhood. It's a 5-minute walk, but he couldn't go because it's a different zip code. That's real lockdown, very extreme. But the day Israel decided we are not in lockdown anymore, what did they do that night? Tel Aviv, first concert in the planet, 5,000 people, packed house, 5,000 people dancing together in the concert. That's what I call to be an extremist. You go from one hand to the other. You go boom, boom. Lockdown is a crazy lockdown. You open like Mishnun, you make parties like crazy. And again, lockdown. Now, I guess they maybe learned a little bit their lesson. They're opening a little bit slowly. The reason I'm telling you this, it's because extremism has been also discussed in this week's parasha, and I explained to you why. In this week's parasha, one of the key moments, extremely difficult episode to understand, is the berachot. The berachot, we know Yitzhak Avinu is old, and he says, I am old, I need to give the beracha to my son. He had in mind Esav, his preferred son, and Rivka ohevet et Yaakov. It says in the pasuk, Rivka loved Yaakov. Esav was tzayid befiv. He was a hunter. He was the cherished son of Yitzhak, and we're going to have to see a little bit why. And Yaakov is the opposite. He's the little baby of Rivka. Let's start with Rivka. It's easy to understand because evidently two boys, it's hard. Both are the sons and both are loved by the parents. But Yaakov is a good boy. Yaakov is an obedient, nice person. He's a Yirei Shamayim. Yaakov Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim. We read this morning in the parasha. Yaakov is a person. He sits down in the Bet Midrash. He's a good boy. He's a goody, you know. So evidently, when you give the beracha, we're not talking about just giving a blessing. I bless you, my son. That's not the point. But giving the beracha was giving the scepter, to give it to the person who is going to take the Klal Yisrael to the next level. Of course, it was an extremely important appointment that was made, since we're going to be called Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, Israel being Yaakov. So this is very important, that this is now the third one of the Avot. It was going to be either Esav, which was the cherished pick of Yitzhak, or Yaakov was the pick of Rivka. We could take 5 minutes on this. Rivka, we understand again. She's looking at the picture. She sees that Yaakov is the tzaddik. The big question, of course, is on Yitzhak. Why would you take Esav? Esav is not the best of the people. There are descriptions in the Chachamim of a person who is very attached to, certain pleasures of life that totally forbidden, including killing people, etc. We have a description of a person who is difficult to deal with. And now the big question is, why did Yitzhak is a smart man. I mean, he's the second one of that. Why did he say, I want Esav? It's very interesting. Just a word on that. You speak to any teachers of kindergarten, of young children, and they tell you that they have very, very high expectations of those who are more the Esavs of the class than the Yaakov of the class. I'm using those terms because that's, what we're talking about in this parasha, but you understand what I mean by that. The kids who are the good kids in the class are the good kids. The troublemakers, Rabotai, the troublemakers means that, number one, they're creative. They don't go by what they're being told. Number two, they're smarter. Number three, they're willing to take risks that other kids are not willing to take. And I could go on and on and on why potentially these kids, if they transform their energy and their passion and they channel it into good, they could be better than those kids who just follow instructions. Let's just say it like this. I'm not trying to push kids, if there are any kids in the audience, to become troublemakers, but you understand my point. It's something that educators know very well. And they tell you when they have these kids and they remember them forever, they say, I'm waiting for this kid either to turn into a gangster or to become something special. But the regular, middle of the road, that kid will not be. The courage to take such a kid, to invest in that kid, and the reward you get from that could be amazing, could be very big. And I believe it's a little bit what happens here with Yitzhak. Yitzhak sees a potential in Esav that is tremendous. It's tremendous because Esav is not the regular kid. And being that he's not the regular kid, he could be a tremendous asset for the Klal Yisrael. This is one way of seeing a little bit quickly this Esav-Yitzhak relationship. I believe it is true. There's more than that, because if we say it's not just a story of father and son, mother and son, we're talking about the next appointee of the Klal Yisrael. We're talking about the next leader of the Klal Yisrael, the third Av, the third patriarch of the Klal Yisrael. Then we need to find a deeper connection. And that deeper connection, perhaps, is that Esav is more inclusive of every kind of Jew that we're going to have in our history. If Esav could become something special, then he englobes and includes more Jews. And as a patriarch, it's extremely important, it's crucial. Because the patriarch is not just a person. A patriarch, Av, is somebody you must relate with. If I read the Torah and none of these characters says anything to me, so then I have a problem. That means that the Torah is talking a language that doesn't talk to me, that doesn't sound familiar, that I cannot learn. I need to see Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov like people who could teach me something, people who will be inspiring for me. But the only way for this to happen is more a person like Esav who turned good than a person like Yaakov who turned good, because when you look at Yaakov, he has a perfect trajectory. He never did wrong. He was this good boy. Whatever they taught him to do, he did. Where do you find Jacob? In the Bet Midrash. What is Yaakov's response to a parent asking him to do something? Perfect. Yes, dad. Yes, mom. What is he saying to his teachers? Absolutely. Homework always on time. He's an A+ student. He never had a problem. That's Yaakov. Do I personally identify with a Yaakov? Absolutely not. I don't see myself as a Yaakov, because the first time somebody will tell me, look, Yaakov did this and this and this and that, what am I going to think? First excuse, easiest excuse. Well, he was Yaakov. That's what you expect from me. I'm not Yaakov. He's a whole different thing. I have nothing to do with that. He was a saint, holy person, and I'm not. So there's nothing I could learn from a person like this. Imagine if Esav would be the Av. And imagine Esav became a great guy. Oh, now there's no excuse. You look at Esav and say, oh my God, if he did it, then I could do it. That's an inspiring story. I think that's where Yitzhak was going. Yitzhak is no fool. Yitzhak sees that Esav is not the right person for that. But he's taking a risk. He's a risk taker. He's courageous. He finds the same midah of courage that Esav has in himself. And he said, I want the leader who continues my legacy and my father's legacy to be inspiring to people, to be something that people could relate with. And therefore he picks Esav. Rivka sees the story and she says, I understand that here there is a Yaakov who is a saint. And that's why I started with the extremes, because we have two extremes here. We have the very religious guy, Yaakov, a big Chiloni, is Esav. How are you going to, the question that we have really is that the point that Yitzhak is silently making by choosing to love Esav more than Yaakov, by trying to englobe and include every kind of Jew, by wanting to give the beracha to Esav. How is Rivka going to answer that? It's a strong point. Because she sees that Esav is not the right fit. He's too rebellious. It's too much already. He went too far, because that also exists. He went very, very far, and she doesn't find this to be a fit. But the point that Yitzhak is making, again silently, is a good point. Yaakov is not representative of us, the mainstream regular people. Yaakov is just not that. So let's put this long introduction on the side, and let's study a little bit the text. You all know the story. The story is that Rivka needs those berachot, are very, more than just, metaphoric. They're very, very strong. Again, the story is difficult to understand all the angles. We're not going to discuss all the pshatim and all the pesukim. I just want to take one point of reflection on all of this. But first, the question. So we know the story. I'm just going to say it quickly. It's that when Rivka sees that Esav goes to bring the food for his father, she says to Yaakov to do the same thing. And she commands him to disguise himself under custom of Esav, and to present himself like Esav to the father. And now, it says in the pasuk that Yitzhak, when Yaakov comes close, it says Vayigash, he comes close, Vayishaklo, and he kissed him, Vayarach et reach begadav, and he smelled the smell of his garments, Vayivarecheu, and he gave him a beracha. Vayomer re reach beni ki reach sadeh asher berecho Hashem. The fragrance of my son is like the fragrance of the field that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him. Of course, he's smelling Esav, or famously afterwards when he says, Akol kol Yaakov, the voice is the voice of Jacob. Vayadayim yedei Esav. When I touch him, the feel that I have, it's Esav. And he's confused. Now, this story, this story where Rivka, instead of being honest and just straightforward and talking to her husband about it, she decides to take Yaakov and to disguise him and to dress him into a different person. Isn't that difficult to understand, to swallow? Why was that necessary? Why couldn't they talk about it? And again, I don't claim to have a pshat in this story. It's very complicated. Also, a beracha. And he could have given a beracha to his other son, whatever. Besides, if he tricked him, then Yitzchak could easily have said, he took the beracha, ba'achicha b'mirma, since he came with a ruse, so therefore, it doesn't apply to him. And I'm going to give it to you, my dear son Esav. There must have been a change of mind, especially based on the introduction we gave, that they had a deeper conversation on who is worthy of being the head of the Klal Yisrael. What is that conversation? What is happening there is really what we need to discover. I would like to share with you that this change of mind really is happening in Yitzchak because of one particular thing that is happening with Rivka. I want to share with you the pshat that I studied in the name of Chidushei Harim, who was the first Rebbe of Ger, Gur. The Chidushei Harim, Rav Yitzchak Meir, the Chidushei Harim says the following. The problem that we said before of Rivka choosing Yaakov, and Yaakov not being representative of the Jewish people because he's this holy person and I don't have anything with him, is a problem. Is a real problem. Because see, there's something that happens in our nation. In our nation, we're not all going to be Yaakovs who look like Yaakov, who act like Yaakov, who think like Yaakov, who have a neshama like Yaakov. It's just not going to happen. People are going to go astray. People are going to get lost. People are going to go look somewhere else, etc., etc. And that makes the multitude of colors that makes our nation. Of different people, of different minds, of different derech, of different ways of thinking. And sometimes we lose some, and sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. It is what it is. Each one has the free will to do whatever they want. But how do you include them? Who are they, these people? There's something very deep happening here, a little emotional, and I'm going to share with you a story that happened to me 2 weeks ago. But first, what the Chidushei Harim says. The Chidushei Harim says that all these Jews who feel outside, who decide to dress, the dress, of course, is not about the way you dress. It's deeper than that. It means the way you see yourself, the way you feel about yourself, that you feel like Esav, like the beged, kereach sadeh, that the person smells to the sadeh, which means to the outside world, to something that is not the personality of Yaakov, but the kol Yaakov, which means the inside of the person is Yaakov. She says, dress like Esav. Put the coat of Esav so that the feel is like Esav, but inside you remain Yaakov. You know what that means? That means that Yaakov, it's as if Rivka and Yaakov had a conversation and Rivka tells Yaakov, tell me something, Yaakov. Do you feel identified? Do you identify with those persons who are not like you? Can you take care of those who are not going to be thinking exactly like you? Can you identify with those who are not going to look like you? And the answer is, as long as the inside is Yaakov, I don't care what the outside looks like. It doesn't matter. Even if I look like Esav, even if I feel like Esav, inside I'm Yaakov. That's the representation of this story. When the mother says to Yaakov, Yaakov, dress like Esav, it means, dress like Esav means feel you, Yaakov, representing the whole Klal Yisrael. We're not talking about one person in this story, we're talking about a lot more than that. Is that the leader of the Jewish people is going to have to be connecting to others because the inside is the same. The outside may be different, but you have to be capable of looking deeper than the outside, than the inside. And so then you need a Yaakov who is full Yaakov inside to identify with those who are full Yaakov inside. But even if Yaakov was outside Yaakov, she dresses him in a way to say, Yitzhak, do you understand that he could take and really include the whole Klal Israel? You were worried that Esav could do that. He can't do it. Yaakov looks like he cannot do it, but he could do it. He dresses like Esav. It means he includes all the kinds of Jews. Because inside, all the Jews are Yaakov. And I'm going to tell you that story coming back to the Israelis. 2 weeks ago, I was in New York. 3 weeks ago, I was in New York, and we decided to go to a restaurant with my wife, my future son-in-law, my daughter. And this restaurant, for those who know Crown Heights, because it was the only part of Brooklyn that was open, so we could eat in those restaurants, because in the traditional Brooklyn, Flatbush, etc., it was closed, the red zone. But there, it was open. So we decided to look into restaurants. There, I asked a couple of guys, what's the best place to go there? They told me there's a meat place called Allenby. So this Allenby is a very interesting restaurant. It's an Israeli gourmet restaurant. It's called modern cuisine, Israeli cuisine. It's very gourmet, very high scale, very, very good restaurant. I strongly recommend. And I found out, and I'm going to make this story short, I found out that the chef in that place is a student in culinary school, a student of who I considered, at least I used to be close with, one of the best chefs in Israel, called Meir Adoni. If you heard my speeches, you've heard that name already, because he's truly an artist. You could go and look online, Meir Adoni, in his Instagram page, etc. You're going to see things that each plate that he makes is an art. Meir Adoni. Unbelievable. The guy, I know him for years in one of the trips that we had with Mati Cohen in Costa Rica, and incredible. And I heard the cook is a Talmid, he's a student of Meir Adoni. I said, oh my God, I got to try that food, because I know it's very, very refined, very courageous food, very, very interesting blend of Israeli. Again, they try to deconstructed falafel. How do you do that? And you sell it for $30. That's the chidush, because it's, and I strongly encourage to go and try. This is not a classic restaurant at all. To make a long story short, we get in there and we have to make some time, because one of the people is late. So we have to make some time. And, so I see the manager, who is a co-owner, and I see he has a good vibe, whatever. His size, taller than me, tattooed all over, a typical Tel Aviv vibe person, extreme Chiloni, earrings, more than one. You get you get the picture. And I want to make a confession. I love talking to these guys. I just love it. They're much more entertaining than all of you together. Sorry about that, because you and I are a little too classic. A guy like this, I want to know what's inside. Like, how did you get there, It's an interesting conversation that I start with the guy, and I start telling him, first of all, let me tell you something. This place looks stunning. You start with a compliment, you already get the guy. He wants to open up, he wants to talk. And I said, I heard that the chef is a Talmid of Meir Adoni. Yes, I said, well, Meir Adoni, I spent a whole week with him. We became friends. We had so many deep conversations. Great guy. And I'm telling him this and this and this and that. And the guy is getting into the conversation, telling me, can I ask you something? Sorry for the question, but are you religious? I assume you are. I said, well, look, that's, I am. So, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a rabbi. You're a rabbi? Oh, wow, you're so cool. You're so nice. Like, yeah, sure. In Florida, we have cool rabbis. He tells me, okay, that's incredible. Can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. He tells me, I'm going to tell you a statement and you tell me what you think. Please be honest. I said, sure, what's the problem? He said to me, look, up to the age of 15, I grew up in a religious family. I was Shomer Shabbat. Oh my God. I said, well, I do look different than what I just told you, but I want to explain to you what happened. So please go ahead. Tells me at the age of 15, I had, I wasn't so interested in religion, etc., etc. And I'll be honest, I studied breaking Shabbat. I studied breaking Shabbat, and a cousin of mine who was very religious and still is, he got me on the side, he looked at me in the eyes and he said, if you keep on breaking Shabbat, you will end up burning in hell. He looks at me straight in the eyes, he tells me, that day when he said that, I said, that's it, it's not for me. Instead of convincing me to come back, he made a much worse impact on me. I said, well, I don't blame you, I would have done the same thing, He said, what? I said, well, yeah, it's a big turnoff, you expect others to understand a little bit what you're going through, and your cousin put you down. He said, can you tell me what you think about that statement? I said, if you don't mind, I like your energy. I'm going to be straight and honest with you. Why are you asking me? Why are you asking me what I think? It means you have a doubt? I said, when did this happen? Tell me 20 years ago. Tell me I'm 35, I was 15. I said, for 20 years, you still have the doubt, you never clarified it, you never asked someone? He said, I never got an answer that made any sense. I said, so I hope I could answer it to you. I looked at him straight in the eyes and I said, listen, I don't have an answer to your question. And you know why? Because I was never in hell. So I couldn't tell you about hell. And that means that whoever taught you that you're going to hell is someone who either was born in hell or grew up in hell or is going to end up in hell. Or another possibility, he's lying because he's talking about something he doesn't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you about Thailand. They claim the beaches in Thailand are gorgeous. I wouldn't be able to make that claim. I wouldn't be able to tell you that spending a nice week of vacation in Greece, in Mykonos, is a good idea because I was never there. I could tell you about Paris. I could tell you about my ski trips. I could tell you about a lot of things. But if I tell you about something I don't know, I'm lying. So if this guy is telling you you're going to end up in hell, either he's a hell visitor, and that makes him a rasha more than you, or he's lying because he was never there. You know Darkei Hashem? He knows how God judges people. He knows that? He doesn't. I tell him, look, I'm just going to tell you what the Gemara says. The Gemara says Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, I don't fully understand, but the Gemara says he did have a little tour up there in Shamayim. He had a little pre-tour. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And he said one thing. Gedolim lemata and kitanim lema'ala. Olam hafuch raiti. I saw a world upside down there. Those who I expected to be in the top, I saw them in the bottom. And whoever I expected to see in the bottom, I saw them in the top. Which means that we don't know how God judges people. No idea. Maybe you're such a nice person that even if you did that, God will still put you up there next to his throne. I don't know. And I'm trying to be as honest as possible. I don't know because I was never there and I'm not God. And my job is not to be God. My job is to be human. And whoever is playing God's job, it's dangerous. That's what I would tell you. So it's not a yes or no question. It's a, I don't know. That's the choice you decided to make. But that person claims you're going to end up in hell, that's a lie. because he's not the one who decides that. Rabotai, this tall guy who looked like a gangster, full of tattoos and earrings, he looks at me straight in the eyes and he said, I have never heard that answer. I want to thank you. 20 years I was waiting for that answer. He had a tear in his eye and he told me, can I ask you another question? I said, sure. He asked me, can I give you a COVID hug? I said, give me a COVID hug, please. I could tell you that hug, the guy was hugging me for 15 seconds. It was a hug from the deepest of his neshama. He was like if somebody came out of jail. 20 years he was in jail and he came out of there. Now, it was worth it because throughout the meal, although he did charge me, throughout the meal, and he was in the high 3 digits, it's an expensive restaurant, but throughout the meal, he did send alcoholic beverages for free, a lot of appetizers for free whenever he could. He said, bring me something for the best rabbi in the world right here. I'm like, how do you know? You spoke to me 5 minutes. Maybe I'm a terrible guy. But the guy was incredible. And I learned something that I already knew because it's not the first time it happens to me. These guys are butter. These guys are soft inside. They may look like Esav in the outside, but inside they're Yaakov. They're pure. They're soft. I'm telling you, these guys, it's not the first time I have these conversations. As I told you before, I love talking to these guys. You know why? Because they give you this appearance of Esav. But that's what Rivka did. She said to Yaakov, get dressed like Esav. Include those guys. Because inside they're all Yaakov. In the outside, they may look like Esav. Don't worry what they look like. Take a pair of X-rays and see deeper inside. They're soft, they're beautiful, they're tahor, neshama teora. Mamash, I'm telling you, you could feel it. You talk to these guys, break the ice. You do that, you do Kiddush Hashem like you never did. And you don't have to be a rabbi for that. All of us, and that's the homework we have to do. All of us, we could do that. You give them a compliment, you show them something. As I studied, there's kitzoniyut in Israel, the chiloni, the one who is not religious. He never spoke to a religious person in his life. Because there's nothing in between. We don't exist in Israel. Our lifestyle does not exist in Israel. To be religious, to be balanced, to enjoy life at the same time, they don't know how it works. You have to kitzoni, you one way or the other. Because in Israel, everything is very. I'm not here to make a description of Israel. But we have a job. Those who follow who are Yerei Shamayim, those who try to serve God in Chutz La'aretz, we have a job that only us could do. You talk to these people, wow, my God, you could be a rabbi, you could be normal. You could be a Shomer Shabbat and be a normal person. Yes, you could. Absolutely. And that's what Rivka wanted to achieve. Yaakov, as long as you don't get dressed at one point like Esav in a sense, dress like Esav, you're going to represent the whole Klal Yisrael. The inside is butter. The inside is Yaakov. And now we may start to understand the Gemara. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 37, Daf Lamed Zayin. I read. The Gemara quotes the pasuk I said before. Vayarach et reach begadav. So Yitzchak, when Yaakov comes close, he smells his clothes. Says the Gemara, you know, begadim in Hebrew means the clothes. How do you say rebellious in Hebrew? Same word, beged, boged is rebellious. Al tikre begadav, ela bogdav. Don't read his garments, rather read it, his betrayers. So now you read the pasuk, vayarach The Gemara says he smelled a reach bogdav. He smelled the smell of the betrayers, of the rebellious ones. He gave him a beracha. Because at this point, Yitzchak understood everything. The Klal Yisrael has a piece of Jacob inside. They all have that Yaakov inside. Even if they're rebellious outside, they're Yaakov inside. When Yaakov says, I want to include everyone in me. I want to include all of them, even those who dress like Esav. Inside, all going to be Yaakov. There, he gave him a beracha, meaning Yitzchak Avinu's mind changed. He said, Yaakov is the one. It's not Esav. It's Yaakov. It includes a lot more people. You know, begadim, a beged is tricky. You know, the atbash is that you switch the first letter of the alphabet, the aleph, with the tav, which is the last letter of the alphabet. The bet, which is the second letter of the alphabet, you switch it for the one before the last, which is the shin. The third letter, the gimel, you change it for the resh. The fourth letter, the dalet, you change it for the kuf. And that's how you go atbash, tak, 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 one less. It's another way of reading the Torah. Let's read the word beged with the atbash. Bet, gimel, dalet, which is the clothing. You know what it spells? Shin, kuf, resh, sheker. Sheker is the lie. Clothes are a lie. Clothes is more than just the shirt you're wearing. Clothes mean the external part of the person. It's the rebelliousness of the person. It's all these things that are outside that make us believe that that's who we are. It's sheker, it's a lie. Because deeper inside is the emet that we find. And so I strongly believe that we have a job there. It's achievable. You see those people, take the opportunity. Get closer to them. I believe that the pshat that we just said in the name of the Chidushei Harim is really the Gemara Meforeshet. Al tikre begadav ela bogdav. The Midrash in Bereshit Rabbah on this pasuk says, Vayarach et reach begadav, he smelled those by Barecheu and he blessed him. Kegon, for example, Yosef Meshita. Do you remember the story of Yosef Meshita? Because if you don't, I will remind you the story. The story of Yosef Meshita is that when the Romans wanted to enter the Temple Mount, they got to the Bet HaMikdash and they said, we're afraid of going in. Who knows what's inside there, right? You don't know the edifice. The Bet HaMikdash was spectacular. They were afraid they didn't want to go inside. So what did they do? They told the people, one of you should be a volunteer to go in there. And to motivate that person, one of the Jews, go inside the Bet HaMikdash. And whatever you take out from there will be yours. Who volunteered? One of the rebellious people, renegade, atheist, heretic, who came forward and said, I'm going in. What's his name? Yosef Meshita. He was a Jewish renegade who was helping the Roman legion against the Jews. And so this person, Yosef Meshita, the Midrash tells us, went inside and took, what did he take first? What would you take if you go inside the Bet HaMikdash? You want to take something home to give your wife a beautiful thing? What do you take? The menorah. He took the candelabra, the most beautiful item in the Bet HaMikdash. He took the menorah out, and they were impressed by the menorah. As you know, in the Arch of Titus, you could see the Romans carrying the menorahs, the most spectacular menorah you could see. And they taught him, a regular man cannot use such an item. Go back, we're going to keep that and take something else. And that thing now will be yours. Says the Midrash, he refused. Not going back. Rabbi Pinchas said, says the Midrash, they offered him 3 years worth of tax money of the whole Israel. All the taxes of Israel are yours. He said, I'm not going in. He said to them, is it not enough that I angered my creator one time? Should I anger him again? What did they do? They put him on the chopping block and started to bang nails into him. And what was he screaming? He was screaming, "Ametzaveach ve'omer, Vai, oy, she'ichafti lebor'i. Woe is to me if I angered my creator." I don't know what happened in there. I don't know what Yosef Meshita saw in there. But this Yosef Meshita, who was a piece of thick Esav skin outside. But this is the next level. He went inside the Beit HaMikdash to cut the menorah, to take it home. He's a Jew. Then they said, go back. He said, I'm sorry, I'm not going back. You're going to die. Well, kill me. I don't care. Inside it's Yaakov. That inside will never change. A Jew is a Jew forever. It stays in there. This flame does not extinguish. What does the Midrash say? When it says, Vayarach edreach begadav vayvarechu, the same as the Gemara. He smelled his clothes and he gave him a blessing. It's not clothes. It's bogdav, those rebellious people, those renegades. He smelled that. It changed the mind of Yitzhak. At this point, Yitzhak says, oh my God, you're right, Yaakov is much more inspiring than I thought. He understood, he saw it all. He grew up with a brother like Esav. He could dress like an Esav. He understands that the other person could be going through struggle. And not everyone is like Yaakov. That's the guy you want. He's not the Yaakov I thought. He's a Yaakov who could be including everyone. And so it is our job to do that. That's really our homework. We could be inspiring others. So I meet these people and I love talking to them. We could all do that. And the result is incredible. So I want to thank you for tonight. I want to thank our sponsor, Chaiki Rudy, and wish Refuah Shelema to Brian Tolstano. Bezat Hashem, we should be doing the same